The council chamber stretched vast and cold, carved from a single piece of crystalline rock that gleamed under the light of 1,000 stars. Commander Min stood at the center of the room, alone. Around him, seated on platforms that rose high into the darkness above, sat the representatives of 43 alien species. They looked down at him with eyes that held no respect, only curiosity and amusement. Min wore his dress uniform, dark blue with silver trim, the flag of United Earth stitched over his heart. Behind him on a holographic display floated an image of his home planet, a blue and green sphere that seemed small and fragile in this place of power. He had rehearsed his speech 100 times on the journey here. He had prepared for difficult questions, for skepticism, even for hostility. But he had not prepared for laughter. It started when he mentioned humanity's population. 7 billion souls living on one small world. The representative, a massive creature with 4 arms and skin like polished stone, made a sound like grinding rocks. It was laughter. Others joined in. The beings of pure thought given form through technology sent waves of condescending amusement directly into his mind. The who resembled nothing so much as floating jellyfish made of light, pulsed with colors that Min's translator identified as mockery. High Chancellor In, leader of the Empire and chairman of this council, raised one massive hand for silence. The laughter died slowly, reluctantly, as if the assembled species were children being told to stop playing. In leaned forward on his throne, and his voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. "Human," he said, and the word dripped with disdain. "You come before this council asking for what? Trade, protection, a voice in galactic affairs." He paused, and Min saw something dangerous flash in those alien eyes. "You are primitives. Your species only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 years ago. We have been traveling the stars for. You fight wars among yourselves over resources and ideology. We have evolved past such barbarism." Min kept his face neutral, his posture straight, his training held. "We come seeking peaceful cooperation," he said. "We have much to offer. Our scientists, our culture, our—" "Your scientists!" Another wave of laughter rolled through the chamber. Floated down closer to Min, its luminous form pulsing. Through his translator, its voice came thin and high. "We were splitting atoms when your ancestors were still climbing trees. We were bending spacetime when you were still throwing rocks at each other." The spoke next, its words forming directly in Min's consciousness. "We have examined your species through your broadcasts, through your history. You are violent, destructive, chaotic. You wage war on your own kind over trivial differences. You poison your own planet in pursuit of comfort. You are children playing with dangerous toys." Min felt Lieutenant One's presence in his earpiece. She was back on their ship, monitoring everything. "Commander, I'm reading elevated stress markers. Stay calm. Don't give them a reaction." He didn't need the reminder. He had faced boardrooms full of corporate sharks, military tribunals, and once, a hostage situation in the Seoul underground. He knew how to keep his composure, but he also knew when he was looking at predators sizing up prey. High Chancellor In stood, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber floor. "We will make this simple for you, human. You have 2 choices. Accept our protection, become a protectorate of the Empire, and we will guide you toward civilization. Or refuse and face the galaxy alone. Unprotected, vulnerable." He smiled, showing teeth like daggers. "We both know which choice is wise." "I must consult with my government," Min said carefully. "Of course," In replied. "You have 48 hours. Return here with your answer or we will assume you have chosen isolation." He waved one hand dismissively. "Council is adjourned." Min walked out of that chamber with his head high, even as laughter followed him. The corridor outside was empty, his footsteps echoing on metal floors. Only when he was back on his shuttle, the door sealed behind him, did he allow his mask to crack. "They were never going to listen," one said. She sat in the co-pilot seat, her fingers dancing over controls. "I've been monitoring their communications. Commander, it's worse than we thought." "Show me." One pulled up encrypted transmissions she had intercepted. The translation software worked through them, and Min felt his blood run cold. They had been planning this for months. They had surveyed Earth, its resources, calculated the value of human labor in their mining colonies. They had already drawn up invasion plans. The council session had been theater, nothing more. "They're going to invade regardless of what we say," one said quietly. "They see us as weak, as prey." Min stared at the data scrolling across his screen. Fleet movements, troop deployments, timelines. The Empire was mobilizing for war, and Earth sat at the center of their targeting solutions. "Send everything to Admiral Wu," he said. "Use the quantum channel full encryption, and include my assessment." "Which is?" "They've chosen war, they just don't know it yet." One's fingers flew over her console. Message sent. What do we tell the Council in 48 hours? Min looked out the viewport at the massive space station that housed the Galactic Council. It gleamed like a jewel against the stars, a monument to thousands of years of peaceful cooperation among the species who had evolved past the need for violence. Or so they claimed. "We tell them nothing," he said. "We leave quietly, and we let them think they've won. And then we go home and prepare for the storm." The shuttle broke away from the station, its engines flaring blue as it accelerated toward the jump point. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its business, secure in its superiority, confident in its strength. They had laughed at humanity. They had dismissed Earth as insignificant. They had made the mistake of assuming that because humanity was young, it was weak. In his quarters that night, as the ship jumped through hyperspace toward home, Min composed a message. It was short, only 3 words and a code phrase. He sent it through channels that no alien could intercept, using quantum encryption that wouldn't be cracked for 1,000 years. The message reached Earth 18 hours later. It was delivered directly to General, Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces. She read it twice, then reached for a red phone that had never been used before. The message said, "They chose war, activate Protocol Reaper." Across Earth, lights began turning on in military bases that officially didn't exist. Shipyards hidden on the dark side of the moon roared to life. Weapons systems that had been theoretical yesterday became operational today. And 7 billion humans, who had spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other efficiently, turned that knowledge toward a new enemy. The aliens had laughed at humanity. Soon, they would learn why that was a mistake. General stood in the command center, buried 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps. Around her, dozens of officers worked at stations that monitored everything from troop movements to asteroid mining operations. The room hummed with quiet efficiency, the sound of a war machine preparing for battle. "Status report," she said, her voice cutting through the background noise. Captain Jin appeared on the main display, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her ship's instruments. "Silent Shadow is in position, General. We're holding station just outside the sensor net. They have no idea we're here." "What are you seeing?" Exactly what Commander Min predicted. The fleet is assembling at staging point Gamma. I count 347 capital ships, twice that many support vessels. They're loading troops and supplies. This is an invasion force, General. No question about it. Studied the tactical display. Red icons marked enemy positions, spreading across the map like a disease. Time to completion. 6 days, maybe 7. Then they'll move toward human space. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. "Good, let them think we're blind. How are their formations?" Jin's expression showed something between disbelief and amusement. "Textbook, General, literally. They're arranging their ships in parade formations, probably for intimidation. Big ships in front, escorts on the flanks, support ships in the rear. It's like watching a training exercise." "They've never fought a real war," said. "Not in living memory. The Galactic Council's been at peace for 3,000 years. They've forgotten what war actually looks like. Should we be worried about that, General? Maybe they know something we don't. No, Captain, they've evolved past war because they never needed it. They expanded into empty space, found plenty of resources, and decided fighting was beneath them. We evolved through constant warfare because Earth gave us no choice. Every resource was contested. Every advantage was temporary. We learned to fight or we died. She paused. They think that makes them civilized and us primitive. They're about to learn the difference between evolution and advantage. Jin smiled grimly. Orders. Continue monitoring. Map every ship, every weapon, every communication relay. I want to know their fleet inside and out before they cross into our space. And Jin, if they detect you, run. We need that data more than we need a heroic stand. Understood, General. Silent shadow out. The display switched to another feed. Dr. Min stood in a weapons laboratory, surrounded by technology that looked more like art than science. Behind him, a massive was being loaded onto a transport frame. General, he said, nodding respectfully, we're ahead of schedule. The new weapon systems are ready for fleet deployment. Show me. Min gestured and technical displays filled the screen. The use energy shields, standard technology across the galaxy. They're designed to deflect energy weapons and slow down physical projectiles, very effective against conventional weapons. And very expensive to maintain, added, which is why they don't keep them running at full power all the time. Exactly. Our use solid projectiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The shields will stop the first few shots, but each impact drains their power reserves. By the time they realize they need to divert more power to shields, we'll have punched through their defenses. What about the missile systems? Mint's smile widened. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Alien point defense is designed to target single incoming threats. Our missiles swarm. Hundreds of small warheads working together, coordinating through quantum links. They can't shoot them all down. A few always get through. And once they do, the warheads are equipped with electromagnetic pulse generators. They don't destroy ships outright, but they disable systems. Shields go down. Weapons go offline. Communications fail. The crew survives, but the ship is dead in space. Nodded slowly. Good. We're not trying to commit genocide. We're trying to win a war and make sure they never threaten us again. Disabled ships can be recovered. Dead crews make martyrs. There's one more thing, Min said. He looked uncomfortable. The AI division has developed something. They're calling it the Reaper Protocol. I authorized that program. What's the problem? It works too well, General. Once we deploy it against the fleet, it will spread through their entire network. Every ship, every station, every military installation. They'll be blind, completely blind. No sensors, no communications, no coordination. It would be like fighting in the dark. That's exactly what I want. General, it might not stop at military systems. The virus is designed to evolve, to adapt. If it spreads to civilian infrastructure, then their civilians learn what war means, said coldly. Doctor, they're coming to Earth to enslave us, to take our world and make us labor in their mines. They're not planning a surgical strike. They're planning systematic subjugation. I will not handicap our defense because we're worried about their civilians suffering consequences of their government's decisions. Min nodded reluctantly. I understand. The systems will be ready for deployment when the fleet launches. The next briefing came from Admiral Wu, commander of Earth's defense fleet. His craggy face filled the screen, and behind him could see the bridge of his flagship, the battleship Defiance. Fleet status, she asked. All ships are ready, General. We've pulled back from the outer colonies as planned. They hit 3 of them yesterday. Minimal resistance. They think we're running scared. Good, let them keep thinking that. How many ships did we lose in those engagements? None. The colonists evacuated before the attacks. We left automated defenses that put up enough fight to seem real, then failed on schedule. They are analyzing the wreckage now, thinking they understand our capabilities. But they don't. Not even close. The ships they destroyed were 30 years old museum pieces we pulled out of mothballs. Our actual fleet is nothing like what they've seen. Wu leaned forward. General, my captains are ready. My crews are ready. We've been training for this scenario since the day we met the Galactic Council. We know their tactics, their weaknesses, their response times. We're faster, we're meaner, and we're angrier than they can imagine. Casualties? We'll take some. No way around that. But I'd bet my rank that we'll hand them the worst defeat in galactic history. Allowed herself a small smile. I'm not taking that bet, Admiral. How long until the fleet reaches Earth? 4 days. They're being cautious, jumping in small increments, probably afraid we've got some kind of trap waiting. They have no idea how right they are. Keep them confident. Let them think we're scrambling to defend. The moment they enter the Sol system, you have full tactical authority. Do whatever you need to do to protect our home. Yes, General. One more thing. We're getting requests from neutral alien species, asking if they should evacuate their people from Earth. Apparently word is spreading that humanity is about to be conquered. Tell them evacuation is available but unnecessary. Tell them Earth will still be standing when this is over. They won't believe that, General. They will after anything else. Just a message from Commander Min. He wants to be reassigned to the fleet for the battle. I need him in diplomatic channels. After we win this war, someone will have to negotiate the peace. It should be someone who saw what the Galactic Council really is. The briefings continued through the night. Troop dispositions, supply lines, contingency plans. Reviewed everything, approved some proposals, modified others, rejected a few outright. By dawn, Earth's defenses were as ready as they would ever be. She walked to the observation deck, a luxury in a military installation but one she had insisted on. Through the reinforced glass, she could see the Alps stretching away in the morning light, peaceful and eternal. Somewhere out there in the darkness between stars, an alien fleet was coming to destroy everything she saw. They were coming with overwhelming numbers and advanced technology. They were coming with the confidence of a species that hadn't fought a real war in 3,000 years. They had no idea what they were about to face. This reflection stared back at her from the glass, and she thought about all the wars humanity had fought. The trenches of the Great War, the beaches of the Second World War, the jungles and deserts and cities where humans had perfected the art of killing each other. Every tactic, every strategy, every brutal lesson learned in blood. The aliens thought humanity was primitive because they fought each other. They didn't understand that humanity's endless wars had forged them into the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They had evolved past war. Humanity had evolved through it. Let them come, she whispered to her reflection. Let them come and learn what 10,000 years of warfare has taught us. Armada entered the Sol system with all the confidence of a lion entering a cage full of rabbits. 800 warships, their hulls gleaming under the light of Earth's sun, arranged in perfect formation. High Chancellor In stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Pride of, and watched the blue planet grow larger on his. Magnificent, he rumbled. A beautiful world. It will make a fine addition to the Empire. His tactical officer, a younger named, gestured to the display. Chancellor, we're detecting minimal defensive presence. A few dozen ships, outdated designs. They're not even powering their weapons. They know they cannot win. They will surrender, and we will be merciful. Perhaps we will even allow some of them to remain on their planet as caretakers. In settled into his command throne. Open a channel to the human fleet. The shifted, showing the bridge of a human ship. Admiral Wu sat in the captain's chair, looking relaxed, almost bored. His uniform was crisp, his expression neutral. High Chancellor, he said, his voice flat, you've come a long way. I offer you one final chance, human. Surrender now and your species will live as part of the Empire. Resist, and we will be forced to take your world by force. Many will die needlessly." Wu smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Chancellor, you've made a mistake, a big one. You've confused our restraint for weakness, our desire for peace for inability to wage war. That ends now. You dare threaten us, we have 800 ships. You have what, 40, 50? You cannot possibly." "I don't need to threaten you," Wu interrupted. "I just need to kill you, all of you. And I need to make sure the rest of the galaxy watches so they understand what happens to species that attack humanity." He leaned forward. "You laughed at us. Now let me show you what we learned during 10,000 years of killing each other." The transmission ended, and stared at the blank screen, rage building in his chest. "Insolent creatures, all ships advance, destroy." That was when the trap sprung. Human ships appeared everywhere. Not dozens, hundreds. They materialized from behind asteroids, from the shadows of planets, from positions where they shouldn't have been able to hide. And they didn't attack like civilized species. They didn't line up for honorable combat. They swarmed. Captain Dong commanded the carrier Indomitable, positioned behind Earth's moon. At Wu's signal, his flight decks erupted with activity. Fighters launched in waves, dozens every second, piloted by men and women who had trained for this moment their entire lives. Lieutenant Haewon led the first squadron. Her fighter was small, fast, and heavily armed with missiles that they had never encountered before. She dove toward the alien formation with 11 other fighters following her lead, moving in perfect coordination. "Fox Squadron, weapons free," she transmitted. "Target the lead dreadnought. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and get out before they know we're there." The squadron split into 3 groups, approaching from different angles. They tried to track them, but human fighters moved like nothing they had ever seen. They jinked, they rolled, they used the kind of evasive maneuvers that came from centuries of atmospheric dogfighting translated into space combat. Haewon's targeting computer locked onto the Pride of's weapons array. She fired a burst of missiles and watched them streak toward the target. The shields flared, absorbing the first impacts. Then the second wave hit. Then the third. The shields flickered and failed, and her last missiles punched through, tearing into the dreadnought's primary weapons. Direct hit, their main guns are offline. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out 100 times. Human fighters weren't trying to destroy the massive alien warships. They were disabling them, piece by piece, making them helpless. But the fighters were just the opening move. The real horror began when the human warships opened fire. Captain Wu Jin commanded the battleship Righteous Fury. His ship wasn't elegant like the vessels. It was functional, brutal, designed for one purpose: to kill other ships as efficiently as possible. His cycled up, magnetic coils charging to full power. "Target the carrier group on our starboard side," he ordered. "All batteries prepare to fire on my mark." The targeting solutions appeared on his screen. Not one target, 20. His ship's computer had calculated firing solutions for every enemy vessel within range, factoring in their movement, their shields, their probable evasive maneuvers. Fire. Metal projectiles, each weighing several tons, accelerated to incredible speeds. They crossed the space between fleets in seconds. The shield stopped the first shots. The second volley overwhelmed them. The third volley tore through hulls like paper. One alien carrier simply came apart, its structure unable to withstand the kinetic impact. Another lost power, its engines dark, drifting helplessly. A third exploded as a round punch through its reactor containment. And the worst part, the humans were just getting started. Dr. Mint's virus, the Reaper protocol, spread through the fleet like wildfire. It jumped from ship to ship through their communications network, the same network they used to coordinate their attacks. Within minutes, half the alien fleet was blind, their sensors showing nothing but static. their weapons unable to lock onto targets. The aliens tried to adapt, but they were too slow. They had never faced an enemy that fought dirty, that used every advantage, that didn't care about honor or fair play. They tried to regroup, to form defensive positions, but human ships were already inside their formations, firing at point-blank range. Commander Min watched from the command center, his role reduced to observer now that the battle had begun. He saw the tactical display light up with hundreds of contacts, human and alien, swirling in a chaotic dance of destruction. He saw ships dying by the dozens. He saw human casualties too, ships going dark, crews lost. But the ratio was 10-1, 20-1 in humanity's favor. "They're trying to retreat," Lieutenant One reported. "The fleet is breaking formation." "Let some of them go," Wu ordered over the command channel. "Not all, but enough. I want survivors to tell the story. I want the galaxy to know exactly what happened here." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the pride of the Empire was a debris field stretching across the Sol system. Burning wrecks tumbled through space, their crews dead or dying. Of the 800 ships that had come to conquer Earth, only 73 escaped, and most of those were badly damaged. High Chancellor In survived, though his flagship was crippled, its engines barely functioning. He sat in his command chair and stared at the ruin of his fleet, unable to comprehend what had happened. They were supposed to be superior. They were supposed to be evolved. How had these primitives, these children, destroyed them so completely? A transmission forced its way through his damaged communications array. A human face appeared on his screen. It was Commander Min, the diplomat who had stood before the Galactic Council and asked for peace. "High Chancellor," Min said quietly, "I want you to remember something. I came to your council and asked for peace. You laughed. You mocked us. You called us primitives. And then you decided to invade our home, to enslave our people, to take everything we had built." "We were wrong," In whispered. "We were wrong about you." "Yes, you were. And now the entire galaxy will know it. Your fleet is destroyed. Your military power is broken. And we're not done, not even close." Min's expression hardened. "You wanted to teach us our place in the galactic order. Now we're going to teach you yours. Run home, Chancellor. Tell your people what happened here. Tell them that humanity is coming. And tell them that we will accept nothing less than your complete and total surrender." The transmission ended. In gave the order to retreat, and his damaged flagship limped away from Earth, trailing debris and atmosphere. Behind him, the human fleet began the grim task of recovering survivors and salvaging what they could from the wreckage. On Earth, 7 billion humans watched the battle on screens and holographic displays. They saw their military, their defenders, their warriors do what had seemed impossible. They saw the aliens who had threatened them broken and scattered, and they understood that something fundamental had changed. Humanity was no longer the newcomer begging for acceptance. They were a power to be feared. General stood in her command center and watched the casualty reports come in. 2,000 human dead, 8 ships destroyed, 20 more damaged. Against 800 enemy ships destroyed or captured, it was a victory beyond anything they had hoped for. But she took no pleasure in it. War was war, and death was death, human or alien. She had done what was necessary to protect her species, but she would carry the weight of those deaths for the rest of her life. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," she ordered. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity will accept their formal apology and reparations. And tell them that we're coming to take our seat at their table, whether they want us there or not." The message reached the Galactic Council 3 days after the Battle of Earth. The chamber that had been filled with laughter weeks earlier now sat in stunned silence as they watched footage of the fleet's destruction. Ship after ship, exploding, burning, going dark. The systematic dismantling of what had been the galaxy's most powerful military force. Ambassador Sung stood where Commander Min had stood before. But this time, no one was laughing. This time, every species representative watched him with fear in their eyes. The Empire attacked Earth without provocation, Sung said calmly. They came to conquer us, to enslave us, to steal our world. We defended ourselves. Now we are coming to ensure this never happens again. A representative pulsed with urgent colors. You cannot mean to invade space. That would be an act of aggression against the entire Galactic Council. The Council laughed when we asked for peace. The Council did nothing when they prepared for war. The Council watched as they invaded our colonies. You share responsibility for what happened. Sung's voice grew cold. We are not invading. We are retaliating. There is a difference, and we will continue until the Empire surrenders unconditionally. This is madness. You cannot fight the entire galaxy. We don't need to fight the entire galaxy. We only need to fight those who threaten us. Unless other species wish to join thee in defeat. He paused, letting the question hang in the air. I thought not. Stay out of our way, and you have nothing to fear from humanity. The transmission ended. Sung departed the council station and returned to his ship. Behind him, the representatives erupted into panicked debate. Should they intervene? Could they stop humanity? Was it already too late? While they debated, the human fleet was already moving. Captain Woojin's battleship Righteous Fury led a strike force of 40 ships deep into territory. They moved fast, jumping through hyperspace in short bursts, never staying in one place long enough for the enemy to track them. Their target was the industrial world of Prime, where they built their warships. Entering system now, his navigator reported. Enemy contacts detected. Looks like a defense fleet, maybe 30 ships. Only 30, they should have reinforced this position after Earth. Woojin studied his tactical display. Unless they don't have 30 ships to spare anymore. Formation Delta, let's make this quick. The human ships spread out, approaching the planet from multiple vectors. The defenders tried to intercept, but they moved with the hesitation of a military that had just learned fear. Their formations were sloppy, their responses slow. They had heard what happened at Earth, and they were terrified. The battle was over in 40 minutes. Half the ships were destroyed, the rest fled. Woojin's fleet moved into orbit around Prime and launched their next attack, not on the population but on the shipyards. Precision strikes took out construction facilities, dry docks, and manufacturing plants. Not one civilian structure was touched. Not one residential area was targeted. The humans made their point crystal clear. They could have destroyed everything, but they chose to only break the military infrastructure. Message to planet surface, Woojin ordered. Tell them we are not here to harm civilians. Tell them we are here to prevent future wars. Tell them to pressure their government to surrender, or we will visit every military installation in space and do the same thing. Across territory, the pattern repeated. Human strike forces appeared without warning, destroyed military targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They didn't occupy territory. They didn't take prisoners. They just systematically dismantled the Empire's ability to wage war. Commander Bora led a different kind of operation. Her ghost company specialized in infiltration, sabotage, and the kind of warfare that happened in shadows rather than space. They inserted onto worlds through stealth ships, moving through cities like ghosts, striking at command centers and communications hubs. Her current target was the military command station on a fortress world that coordinated fleet movements. The station sat in the middle of a desert, surrounded by defensive walls and sensors that should have been impossible to penetrate. Should have been. Team 2 is in position, whispered one of her operatives through the tactical link. Charges set on the eastern wall. Team 3 ready, another voice confirmed. Power station is ours. Bora crouched on a ridge overlooking the fortress, her active camouflage making her invisible to both eyes and sensors. She had 12 operatives scattered around the facility, each one a specialist in making impossible things possible. Execute on my mark, she said. 3, 2, 1, mark. The power station went dark. Alarms blared, but the defensive systems had no power. Team 2 blew the eastern wall at the exact moment the defenders were responding to the power failure. Bora and her strike team rushed through the breach, moving with the fluid efficiency of operators who had trained together for years. Guards tried to respond, but they were soldiers trained for conventional warfare. They didn't know how to fight humans who moved like predators, who struck from unexpected angles, who used darkness and confusion as weapons. Within minutes, Bora's team had secured the command center. "Plant the virus and let's move," she ordered. 5 minutes in and out, no casualties if we can avoid it. They uploaded the Reaper protocol into the station's main computer, collected intelligence data, and before reinforcements arrived. By the time the defenders regained control, the damage was done. The virus had spread through their entire network, corrupting data and disabling systems. And most importantly, it had given humanity complete access to military communications. They could read every order, track every ship, monitor every conversation. The Empire was fighting blind while humanity could see everything. Colonel Young led the ground operations. His troops landed on military worlds to capture key facilities and rescue human prisoners from the colonies that had been taken. He stood on the bridge of a transport ship, watching his soldiers load into drop pods. "Remember your training," he told them over the company channel. "These are soldiers, not civilians. They're dangerous, but they're not prepared for the kind of fight we bring. Hit hard, move fast, and watch each other's backs." The drop pods launched, streaking through the atmosphere toward their target, a detention facility where captured human colonists were being held. Young rode in the first pod, feeling the familiar sensation of atmospheric entry, the heat and the pressure, and the absolute certainty that you were about to enter combat. The pod hit the ground and the doors blew open. Young and his squad rushed out into a firefight. Guards were already shooting, their energy weapons painting the air with brilliant light. But human soldiers had trained for this. They moved in teams, providing covering fire, using terrain for protection, advancing methodically. They were bigger, stronger, their forearms allowing them to wield multiple weapons. But humans were faster, smarter, and more adaptable. They used grenades to flush defenders from cover, flanking maneuvers to attack from unexpected angles, and close combat techniques developed over centuries of ground warfare. "Building secured," one squad leader reported. "Prisoners located. They're in rough shape but alive." "Get them to the transports," Young ordered. "Second wave moved to secure the perimeter. I don't want any surprises when we extract." The operation took 2 hours. When Young's forces, they took every human prisoner with them and left the facility in ruins. More importantly, they left a message. Humanity protects its own, and anyone who harms human civilians will face consequences. Back on Earth, General coordinated the entire campaign from her command center. Tactical displays showed human forces operating across a dozen star systems simultaneously. Each operation was carefully planned, each strike precisely executed. The Empire was crumbling, not from overwhelming force, but from surgical precision. "General, we're receiving surrender offers from 3 colony worlds," an aide reported. "They're asking for protection from their own government." "Accept their surrenders. Station defense forces to protect them. Make sure the galaxy sees that we don't punish those who choose peace." The Galactic Council is requesting an emergency session. They want to mediate a ceasefire. Smiled without humor. "Tell them we'll consider their request after the surrenders, not before." Lieutenant 1 entered the command center, her uniform showing signs of long hours without rest. "General, Captain Jin reports that the fleet has completely withdrawn to their home system. They're concentrating all remaining forces for a final defense." "How many ships do they have left?" "Maybe 200, mostly damaged. Their supply lines are broken, their industrial capacity is destroyed, and their military command structure is in chaos. They're finished as a military power. They just don't know it yet. Then let's show them. Pulled up a star map focusing on the send orders to Admiral Wu, assemble the fleet. We're going to end this war. The entire fleet, General. That's over 300 ships. It'll take weeks to coordinate. We have the time. Let the sit and wait. Let them wonder when we're coming. Let their fear build. The expression hardened. They wanted to teach us our place in the galaxy. Now we're going to teach them theirs. And the lesson starts with a demonstration of exactly what happens when you threaten humanity's survival. The orders went out, and across human space, ships began moving toward a single destination. The largest fleet humanity had ever assembled, gathering for one purpose: to force the surrender of the species that had laughed at them, that had tried to conquer them, that had learned too late what humans were truly capable of. The retaliation was nearly complete. Now came the final act, bringing the war to the itself. The human fleet arrived in a display of power that no species in galactic history had ever witnessed. 347 warships, arranged not in attack formation but in a perfect sphere surrounding the planet. Every angle covered, every escape route blocked. It was not an invasion force. It was a cage. Admiral Wu stood on the bridge of the Defiance and looked at the blue-green world on his. It was beautiful, he thought. Oceans and continents, cities glittering in the sunlight, billions of lives going about their day. Not so different from Earth. Admiral, we're receiving multiple hails from the planet's surface, his communications officer reported. The government, civilian authorities, even private citizens, they're all asking for mercy. Let them wait, Wu said quietly. Let them feel what our colonists felt when ships appeared in their skis. Let them understand what terror really means. Commander Min stood beside him. His role shifted from diplomat to observer. How long are we going to hold position? As long as it takes. We're not here to invade, Commander. We're here to break them psychologically. Look at their defense fleet. The tactical display showed 200 ships arranged in defensive positions around there, but they weren't moving. They weren't even charging weapons. They just sat there, waiting, knowing that any aggressive action would be suicide. They're terrified, Min observed. Good, fear will keep them honest when we negotiate the peace. Wu turned to his tactical officer. Status of the blockade. Complete, sir. Not even a courier ship could slip through. We've deployed sensor nets and automated defense platforms. The planet is completely isolated. Begin the broadcast. Let them hear what we have to say. The message went out on every frequency, in every language spoken on the. President of the United Earth Government appeared on screens across the planet, her expression stern but not cruel. People of, she began. Your government attacked my species without provocation. They came to Earth intending to conquer us, to enslave us, to steal our world. We defended ourselves, and in doing so, we destroyed your military power. Now we stand above you, capable of doing to you what you intended to do to us. Across, billions watched in silence. But we will not. Humanity does not wage war on civilians. We do not enslave conquered peoples. We do not destroy worlds. These are the actions of the old galactic order, the order that allowed the strong to prey on the weak, the order that your government represented. Paused. We are here to offer you a choice. Surrender unconditionally, accept the terms we will set, and your world continues. Your people live. Your civilization endures. Or refuse, and we will maintain this blockade until your society collapses from isolation. That's not a choice, Min murmured. That's an ultimatum. Yes, Wu agreed. But it's an ultimatum that lets them live. That's more mercy than they would have shown us. High Chancellor In appeared on the broadcasting from the planetary capital. He looked old, broken, the arrogance completely gone from his bearing. Humanity, he said, his voice heavy with defeat. We surrender, unconditionally. We ask only that you be merciful to our people. They did not choose this war. I did. President's expression softened slightly. Your honesty is noted, Chancellor. We accept your surrender. Prepare to receive our diplomatic delegation and military observers. The terms of peace will be negotiated fairly but firmly. You will have a voice, but understand that humanity will not compromise on our security or our place in the galactic order. The blockade remained, but the tension eased. Human ships began allowing supply transports through, carrying food and medicine to prevent a humanitarian crisis. The message was clear. Humanity could be ruthless in war, but they were not monsters. Lieutenant 1 coordinated the diplomatic mission that landed on. She walked through the capital city, escorted by officials who flinched whenever she made sudden movements. The fear in their eyes was almost painful to see. "This is wrong," she said quietly to men who walked beside her. "They're terrified of us." "They should be," he replied. "They need to understand what they unleashed, but you're right. Fear alone isn't enough to build lasting peace. We need to give them hope too." The peace negotiations took place in the council chambers, the same building where their government had planned Earth's invasion. Now human representatives sat at the head of the table, setting terms that would reshape galactic civilization. General led the military negotiations. The Empire will reduce its military to defensive forces only. All offensive weapon systems will be dismantled under human supervision. Your shipyards will operate at 50% capacity, building only transport and civilian vessels. This will continue for 20 years, after which we will review the situation. A minister protested weakly. "This will leave us defenseless against pirates and raiders." "No," corrected. "It will leave you unable to threaten others. As for pirates and raiders, humanity will patrol your borders. We will protect you while you learn to coexist peacefully with your neighbors." Dr. Min handled the technological aspects. "You will provide humanity with full access to your scientific databases, not as tribute, but as exchange. We will share our own technology in return. The goal is to raise all species to equal technological levels, removing the advantages that allowed the strong to dominate the weak." Ambassador Sung addressed the political requirements. "The Galactic Council will be reformed. Humanity takes a permanent seat with veto power. All member species will be equal, regardless of military strength or economic power. Decisions will be made through consensus, not through intimidation." The negotiations continued for weeks. Slowly, a new framework emerged. The Empire would be allowed to continue existing, but as a peaceful member of the galactic community, not as a dominating force. Reparations would be paid to Earth and the human colonies that had been attacked. Officials who had planned the invasion would face justice. But most importantly, the entire galaxy would be restructured around principles that humanity brought with them. That all sapient species had equal rights, that military might did not grant moral authority, and that peace should be maintained through cooperation, not fear. Captain Jin supervised the dismantling of military installations. She stood in a shipyard that had once built dreadnoughts and watched as workers converted it to produce cargo haulers and passenger transports. It was symbolic, she thought, turning instruments of war into tools of commerce. "Think it will last?" one of her officers asked. "This peace we're building." "For a while," she replied. "Maybe long enough for the next generation to forget why they were afraid. That's the best we can hope for." Commander Bora's ghost company shifted from combat operations to training. She found herself teaching soldiers human tactics, not to make them dangerous, but to help them understand how humans thought. It was strange, training former enemies, but she saw value in it. Understanding led to respect. Respect led to peace. "Why do humans fight this way?" a trainee asked during one session. "It seems dishonorable." "Because honor doesn't matter if you're dead," Bora replied. "We fight to win. We fight to survive. And when the fight is over, we fight to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's the difference between us and you. You see war as a test of honor. We see it as a failure of civilization. 6 months after the siege began, the blockade was lifted. Ships were allowed to travel freely again, though under human supervision. Trade resumed. Cultural exchanges began. The process of healing started, slowly, painfully, but genuinely. The Galactic Council reconvened in a new chamber, built to accommodate humanity's representatives. Commander Min, now promoted to ambassador, stood before the assembled species and delivered a speech that would be remembered for generations. "We didn't want this war," he said. "We came to you in peace and were met with laughter. We asked for cooperation and were threatened with conquest. But now the war is over, and we must all decide what kind of galaxy we want to build. One where the strong dominate the weak, or one where all species work together for mutual benefit." The vote was unanimous. The new Galactic Council would be built on principles of equality and cooperation. Humanity would serve as military protectors, not conquerors. Other species would contribute their own strengths to the collective good. Lieutenant Haywan trained the first mixed squadrons, human and alien pilots flying together. It was difficult at first. The aliens had to learn human tactics, and humans had to learn patience with species that had never fought real wars. But gradually, it worked. The squadrons became symbols of the new order, proof that former enemies could become allies. A year after the war ended, General visited. She walked through the capital with minimal security, trusting that the peace would hold. High Chancellor In, no longer Chancellor but a simple citizen, met her in a public park. "I wanted to apologize," he said quietly, "for what I did, for what my government tried to do." Studied him. The arrogance was gone, replaced by genuine remorse. "Your apology is noted, but actions matter more than words. Help us build this peace. Show your people that cooperation is stronger than conquest." "I will try." She nodded. "That's all anyone can ask." 10 years after the war, Earth hosted a gathering of all galactic species. The event was called the Unity Summit, and it marked the official end of the old order. President, older now but still sharp, addressed the assembled representatives. "We are not here because humanity conquered you. We are here because we all chose peace over endless war. The galaxy is large enough for all of us. The universe holds wonders we haven't even discovered yet. Let us explore them together, as partners, not as enemies." Admiral Wu, retired now, watched from the audience beside Commander Min. "Think it worked?" he asked quietly. "This peace we built?" Min looked around at the gathered species, talking, laughing, making plans for joint ventures and cultural exchanges. He saw human children playing with young ones, teaching each other games. He saw former enemies sharing meals and telling stories. "Yes," he said, "I think it did. We proved that humanity could fight when necessary, but more importantly, we proved that we could show mercy when we won. That's the real lesson. Not that humans are dangerous, but that humans know when to stop being dangerous." On Earth, a memorial stood outside the United Nations headquarters. It listed the names of every human who died defending their world. At the base, an inscription read, "We came in peace. We were forced to bring war. We chose to give mercy. Never forget which we prefer." The war that had begun with laughter had ended with understanding. Humanity had shown the galaxy what 10,000 years of warfare had taught them. Not just how to fight, but why fighting should always be the last resort. They had come to the stars seeking peace, and when they had taken it by force. But having won the war, they had worked harder to win the peace. And that, in the end, was humanity's greatest victory. Not the battles they won, but the civilization they built from the ashes of war. A new galactic order where all species were equal, where military might serve peace rather than conquest, and where the species that had been laughed at now served as guardians for all. The aliens had laughed at humanity. They had underestimated human strength, human cunning, and human determination. But in the end, what surprised them most was humanity's capacity for mercy, for forgiveness, and for building something better from the ruins of conflict. They had laughed at humanity, but they would never make that mistake again.